If you consider yourself an ardent apologist of internal combustion, the time for revelry in the joys of sparks, pistons, fuel and air is now. Oh yes, the electric revolution is well underway, and instead of bemoaning progress, one must concede to a cleaner, more efficient way of doing things, and a cheaper way of doing things, since petrol prices, like helium-filled balloons, only seem to be going up. But this week we are pandering to more traditional petrol-head sensibilities with a product from a segment that simply inspires observers. Say hello to the 2018 Aston Martin Vantage, adding fodder to the long-standing rivalry against the likes of the Porsche 911, Audi R8, Nissan GT-R, Jaguar F-Type SVR, Lamborghini Huracan, McLaren 570S and Mercedes-AMG GT. This is a truly exclusive league of heroes endowed with their own idiosyncrasies and talents, but united by their collective ability to keep you thinking of that big business plan or winning the lottery. Aston Martin revealed the latest Vantage in a signature hue it dubbed Lime Essence, which looked like the brightest offering in the crayon box and not unlike the gunk an infected urchin might cough up. Our test unit wears a more tasteful and conservative shade, but perhaps lurid colors complement the new car well, because it represents a radical departure from many of the styling hallmarks of its predecessor. It incorporates many of the cues on the 2015 track-only Vulcan, of which only 24 units were made. The new Vantage wears an impressive scowl, and some aspects appear streamlined to the point of exaggeration, like the impossibly slim rear lights and narrow side windows. An unflattering comparison perhaps, but some people have opined that the new Aston Martin Vantage looks a bit like a Mazda MX-5, particularly from the front. And as a fan of the Japanese roadster, that parallel sits okay with me. You may recall in 2017 we enjoyed a stint with the previous V8 Vantage model in Volante roofless guise for all time's sake. We praised its endearing old-school character, but lamented that very essence too. Remember, the outgoing car was launched all the way back in 2005, and the segment had progressed in leaps since. Be assured that the 2018 car addresses the glaring shortcomings. For starters, you have a thoroughly modern interior, but one that cocoons as promisingly as a performance-orientated Aston Martin should. Also, goodbye mechanical handbrake next to the driver on the right side, next to the door sill. That function is electrified now. And if you spy any Mercedes-AMG elements, notably the infotainment system and accompanying rotary controller, that is no coincidence. You will recall that in 2013 the pair signed a technology sharing deal. The fruits of this union were first seen in the 2016 DB11. In the case of the Vantage, the relationship runs further than digital paraphernalia, employing the same 4-litre 8-cylinder twin turbocharged engine that powers Mercedes-AMG products such as the C63, E63 and GT. Of course, Aston Martin insists it has been fettled appropriately for this application. The quoted outputs are roughly the same as the GTS from a Falterbach, with 375 kilowatts and slightly more torque, 680 Nm instead of 670 Nm. Its soundtrack has been altered. Expect a noise that is a tad less truculent than the Mercedes-AMG, but raspier and more polished. A similar assertion could be made about its driving character. Indeed, the Vantage wields all the hardware necessary to hold its own against the pedigreed contenders in this ambit. It shares about 30% of its platform with the DB11 Grand Tourer, but the rest is all unique to the Vantage. And in true Aston Martin fashion, it makes use of a bonded aluminium chassis, and a similar methodology is used in certain aircraft. The 8-speed automatic sourced from transmission manufacturer ZF is placed towards the rear, and Aston Martin purports a weight distribution of 50-50. The The rear axle also benefits from an electronic differential. As you would expect, all these ingredients make the Vantage, well, pretty awesome to pilot. Its steering is fast in its reflexes, and the car changes direction like a house lizard evading a slipper. The torque-rich, boosted V8 serves up pace in a measured fashion. No flat spots or abrupt intonations of all its power, just an encouraging groundswell of grunt, which can be unleashed with a bit more vigor in the most aggressive track setting, where it becomes appropriately playful. It is rather telling, perhaps, that the meekest setting you can engage is labeled Sport. Although let that not mislead you. In this mode, the Aston settles down admirably and is more than suitable for an uneventful commute. It is this duality that shoppers in the segment expect. On the topic of shopping, the Vantage will happily transport the week's groceries, sporting a useful 350 litres of luggage space. Following our spirited track session and more sedate jaunts on public roads in between, we can confidently declare that the new Vantage rights the quirks of its forebear while losing little of the charm that made it so appealing. We could describe it as a future-forward Aston Martin, but that kind of descriptor just has connotations of plugs and batteries and autonomous wizardry. So let us rather say that the current car successfully blends the sophistication you demand in 2018 with more than a few elements that nod to the old world character of the former car. All yours for upwards of 2.8 million rand.